This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Now, with a look at local, regional, and international NASCAR racing, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. I'm Hannah Newhouse, joined, as always, by my co-host, Kyle Rickey. And Kyle, if you guys can hear it in the background, is actually at a racetrack right now, finds himself at New Smyrna in the midst of Speed Weeks. And Kyle, it has been a busy week for short track racing as it all kicks off down at New Smyrna. And you're in the midst of it right now.
Yeah, the World Series of Asphalt Racing happening here at New Smyrna Speedway. It is an annual affair. It has been for decades here to kick off the unofficial short track season kickoff, at least here on the East Coast. A bunch of divisions, approaching 9 different divisions of racing over the course of 9 nights, plus a 10th night. That was a practice night to open things up last Friday. The ARCA East Series was here in action on Monday night. The Tour-type modifieds are here all week, Monday through Friday. Throw the pro late models in, the super late models as semi-regulars, the Florida modifieds. They're on the track behind me now, practicing for yet another night of competition here under blue skies and 75 degrees. How's the weather in Charlotte?
It is not good, so thank you for rubbing that in. I've been getting text messages from all the other MRN crew down there with their lovely sunburn pictures and blue skies, and it is dreary and gross here in Concord, North Carolina. But we were joking prior to the show about practices going on behind you. These guys have got to have had enough practice. I mean, come on, guys, let's put it on hold while we record our show.
I mean, you think the pro late models and the super late models, who are the cars that you'll hear on track behind me over the course of the next 30 minutes, they've been here since last Friday. And Thursday was just a practice day. So they had, 6 hours or so of practice, which you think for most teams would have been enough. And I get things change over the course of the week. But they've raced Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. The pros and the supers were off on Monday because the ARCA East cars were here, and the modifieds, they were kind of in the spotlight. They've since been back a couple of nights since, this being their second night back since the weekend, and they're still practicing. And, I think there's 6 features or 7 features total for those 2 divisions. Between the features and all the practice, you would think by now they would have had enough, but that's not the case. However, pro late model racing and super late model racing is expensive.
That it is, and that is a lot of tires as I am doing the math with all that practice. But we talked about how this kicks off the short track season in a car we might commonly put on a short track. The ARCA Menard Series actually kicked off their season at the High Banks of Daytona the tail end of last week. A lot of eyes on Hailie Deegan for her Super Speedway debut. She paced those practice charts, turned a lot of heads, getting that second-place runner-up finish. But it was Michael Self who ended up where he wanted to, on top of the board after just coming short of that championship in 2019. So it was a really cool story to follow. There were more cars that ended the ARCA race than the Busch Clash. That's something we can be proud of for our short trackers out there.
Absolutely. Great run from Michael Self. Like you mentioned, just coming up short a year ago in the run for the championship, able to kick off the season in victory lane at Daytona International Speedway. Hailie Deegan, as you mentioned, a good second-place run. Didn't make a move, an attempt to make that pass on the final lap coming off of turn number 4, and said she really didn't feel the need to. The goal was to finish 3rd to 5th. She didn't want to jeopardize her car, jeopardize her good run, and she was very happy with a second-place run. Overall, a great event, as heard here on the Motor Racing Network. I thought Thad Moffitt turned a lot of heads, had some practice or some qualifying issues on Saturday morning, had to start the event at the back of the field, quickly made his way up to the front, and finished in the top 5 as well. So great race, 34 cars strong, I believe. And you're right, more of those cars finished than finished the Busch Clash on Sunday afternoon.
And for the ARCA East race, or ARCA East Series, they kicked their season off on Monday night. We talked about it a little bit at New Smyrna Speedway. A lot of new names to the ARCA Series, just all across the board. And a really unfamiliar name to anyone that doesn't follow short track racing in the Northeast. Derek Griffith made his debut, captured the pole with Chad Bryant Racing, and to me was really one of the stories of the evening. Had never really sat in the car. The deal came together late. We'll talk to Derek a little bit later in the show about that, but came home, second place finish, nothing to be ashamed of there. But our 2019 champion, Sam Mayer, the youngster, picked up right where he left off and carried that momentum into victory lane.
Yeah, Hannah, there was so much new here on Monday night to kick off the racing season. A new name for the series, new drivers. You mentioned Derek Griffith finishing in the second spot. Put on a show late in the going. Had to recover from a late race penalty. Came up a car length short to Sam Mayer, who was able to pick up the win for GMS Racing. Last year's champion picks up right where he left off in Victory Lane. His first win here at New Smyrna Speedway. I have to say, before we talk about the race more and before we talk to Sam and Derek here in a little bit, the crowd on Monday night here at New Smyrna Speedway, the biggest crowd I've ever seen at this racetrack. They were parked on the road about a half mile away trying to get in and out of this property. So a fantastic crowd. Kudos to the entire NASCAR industry for really coming together, putting on a great event on Monday night here at New Smyrna.
And I think that's a lot of insight into what we expect to see throughout the season with all the new that's come to the ARCA series. I mean, new pit procedures. Like you said, there's a lot of new names and a lot of new exciting things to talk about. So we're going to take a break here. When we get back, we will dial up the winner from Monday night's ARCA East race, Sam Mayer, and talk to him about getting back into victory lane.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
The ARCA East kicked their season off this past week on Monday night, and the reigning champion, the youngster of Sam Mayer, found his way into victory lane for the first win of the season. He joins us now on the guest line. Sam, first off, congratulations on your win Monday night at New Smyrna Speedway, and thanks for coming on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fun night of racing. It was really competitive, and hopefully we can do what we're doing.
And you picked up right where you left off. Do you feel like you carried some of that momentum from that championship into this first race, just confidence to be able to, execute and start the season off with a win?
Yeah, it definitely gave me the drive to defend my championship, which I rightfully earned, and I want to earn this next one too.
Let a bunch of laps.
I'm going to do and to go out, and we ended up on top with pit strategy.
You did. Pit strategy there in the second half of the event. Led some laps late in the race, including the final 13. Bring us through some of those battles with first Ty Gibbs and then Derek Griffith closing in on you there, those final few laps.
Yeah, the ending was insane. Just all the pressure that all the other drivers had with that red flag with 25, 30 to go. Definitely was putting the pressure on me to continue what we had to do. And I worked really hard during the off season just to get cold water going through my veins and trying not to let nothing get to me. And definitely worked out because we ended up with the win, and the 2-car, he was fast. I think this is the first time in a while where I could say that we didn't actually have the fastest car out on the racetrack. But that's what a driver's supposed to do, is take a second-best car, third-best car, and get it to victory lane.
And like we always say, it's the last lap that matters the most, and you put your car in that position. But you mentioned the 2-car there and, the battle with Ty Gibbs. There's a lot of new names in the ARCA East, new teams, a lot of drivers that weren't consistent last year. You are one of the few, being extremely young, that is a now regular name in this series, coming back for a second full-time year. Would you say that you have an advantage being back with the same team, and essentially having more experience, even though you're younger than a lot of these other drivers?
Yeah, I think it was 18 of the 23 cars were all rookies, so it's definitely a lot of new drivers, new faces to get used to racing, and a lot of new drivers to learn how they race and what they do on the racetrack. So it's definitely going to be a fun first couple of races, just trying to figure everyone out. And honestly, I thought there was going to be a lot of wrecks because last year when there was 10 rookies or whatever, there was cautions every 10 laps. So I'm glad it went green flag most of the time, and it was a lot of fun getting these long green flag runs and trying save your tires a lot because you only get one extra set of tires besides the ones you start on. So it was definitely quite the race with all the competition in the top 5.
4 caution flags slowed the event, and not a lot of incidents, but there was one major one. That wow moment happened with 25 to go. You referenced the red flag a little bit ago when Tanner Gray got up and into the outside wall and ultimately damaged the outside catch fence. What's the conversation like as you sit there under the red with your crew chief, Marty Lindley, preparing for that final what turned out to be about a 23-lap shootout?
Yeah, pretty much what he said is, this is all you. Run 23 hard qualifying laps, and they won't be able to get to you. Honestly, I thought the 18 was going to be the one that was going to be on my back bumper the whole time, and it turns out I guess he just burned his tires up trying to get to me before the red flag came out, and he ended up falling off pretty good, and the 2 came out of nowhere. Under caution, I was thinking of all the circumstances that could have happened, and one of them was the 2 car getting to me and putting the bumper to me and what I would do in that situation. So good thing he wasn't able to quite get to me. It kind of seemed like when he got within 2-3 car lengths of me, he kind of slowed down and his tires kind of got hot again, and he wasn't able to get to me again. So it definitely was a storybook ending to that race for sure.
Now, I have to ask here, you did a lot of growing throughout 2019, grew as a driver, and obviously that led to that championship. What is the biggest thing that you're taking away from last season that you plan on implementing this year, to help you try and defend back-to-back championships?
Well, last year I was probably the worst restarter and starter in the entire ARCA and K&N series. So one thing that I worked on a lot over the course of the off-season was my restarts, and it proved that I was working really hard and my restarts were really good this go around, and I was actually able to beat Ty on one of them, and the other one I was able to maintain and keep the lead, and with 20 to go, we were setting sail and just trying to run a bunch of qualifying laps.
What was your comfort level coming here to New Smyrna this year, and now you're the champion of the series, versus last year? Just kind of the mentality of the whole day and then ultimately the whole race. I mean, there had to have been a lot more confidence this year, a lot more comfortability of just being at the racetrack as the defending champ and now a full year under your belt.
Yeah, I mean, last year I would say that New Smyrna was one of my worst races of the year. We weren't that fast, we weren't the best car, and I was struggling as a driver. But in this year, I have to say it might not be my best race, but it also will be my best race because I had to work really, really hard and dig deep and find that extra couple of tenths to keep the lead over the 2 car. So it's definitely going to be one to compare to in the future in 2020.
And we are looking forward to it again. I know we had you on the show a couple of times last year talking about your success, and I have a feeling we will talk to you a lot more this season. So again, Sam, congratulations on your win on Monday, and best of luck. We look forward to seeing you at the track this season.
Thank you very much.
That was Sam Mayer, winner on Monday night in the ARCA East series. But another driver that we've talked a lot about in the opening segment as well as with Sam is that number 2 car of Derek Griffith. Made his debut and turned a lot of heads. We'll have him here on the guest line when we return on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
And welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. We've got Derek Griffith up on the guest line, who turned some heads in Monday night's ARCA East race, making his debut in the series. First off, Derek, thanks for coming on NASCAR Coast to Coast. We know you and Kyle are about 150 yards away from each other. You're in the infield. Kyle is in the stands. You guys could wave at each other right now.
Yeah, if I go to the end of the trailer, I'll I'll be sure to check out for them.
Yeah, we'll keep you in the trailer so we can hear you just for a few minutes for this interview. But first off, congratulations on that great run there. I know this was a last-minute deal with Chad Bryant Racing to get behind the wheel of an ARCA car for your debut. How did this all come together, and it was so last minute?
Honestly, it's like a very crazy story. It was super last minute. I part of the Kilwickie driver development program, and I sat with Chad Bryant and Paul Andrews at our table for the banquet this year. And, we kind of talked a little bit, and, they asked a couple questions, and, I thought nothing of it. And then, sure enough, a couple weeks later, they were calling me or, calling some of the crew members and asking more questions like, hey, you want to maybe test at New Smyrna. And the deal never, manifested. So we kind of just, moved on, but, we just kept our sights on the super deal. And we saw him in Daytona last Wednesday, and, right then and there, we were just figured it out. It was, the craziest thing. The car wasn't down here. The car wasn't ready. I don't have any sort of licensing with ARCA or anything like that yet. And, Thursday at Smyrna with the Super, so I had to spend all morning going out and getting all my tests done and my physical to be cleared to run with ARCA. So it was a pretty crazy last minute deal.
Let's talk about the race on Monday night. 175 laps. You won the pole. You were fast in practice most of the day, and you were good in the test session the day before. So, and obviously you mentioned the super late model as well, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I want to know about the penalty. What goes through your mind? You had to have been about as frustrated maybe as you have ever been running up there toward the front of the field, and then getting that penalty for, entering the pit area too soon and passing the safety truck?
Yeah, it is just one of those things where I don't run with NASCAR too often. I saw the pit road was open, and they holler on the radio to get in there as soon as possible. And I waited, and they said, hurry. So, I hurried my way in, and just, one of those things where I really should have just been a little bit more on the ball with paying attention to driver's speed and everything. But it was definitely frustrating because I was behind the truck and I was waiting, and I kind of got hustled in. So it's just one of those things that it's just a bummer deal, but it's not by any means. It doesn't really take away too much from the weekend. I really think we probably would have won the race or had a better chance to win the race if it didn't happen, or if we put it at a different time. But I really think if there wasn't a mandatory caution, I probably could have raced that whole race on the same set of tires and possibly won. But it's one of those things. I was definitely a little frustrated in the car, but after all said and done, I can't complain. The first time even seeing that car was Sunday morning, and to be the dominant car and come home P2 is definitely not a bad deal for us by any means.
And I want to touch on something that you just mentioned there. You'd said that had you not had that mandatory caution, you feel like that would have put yourself in the dominant position. Now, that's something that as a super racer, I feel like we learn to manage tires in these long races. You're not given the opportunity to pit unless something goes wrong. And that became a Twitter conversation that I was involved in throughout the evening of how your super late model background, for people who don't know you, you've had a lot of success up in the Northeast, in the super late model scene as well as down south here. Do you feel like the time that you have spent in super late model racing or late model racing prepared you to have, relatively instant success in the ARCA series?
No doubt it had some, role in the success there. It's so important to, you gotta let the car do the work, and you can't overwork it. And it seemed like those things were, that's like, it shows a lot in those ARCA cars. They're heavy. They got big brakes, and they seems like they can get a lot of heat in those tires and the brakes very, very easily. And I knew when I was out front riding for a bit, they came over the radio and said the top 4 or 5 cars behind you are all clone rotors trying to catch you. And I knew that's when we were in really good shape. I wanted to maintain that at least 6-car distance on the rest of the field, and I don't know. It seemed like a few dog battle, and we were definitely had the best car and everything, like I said. But as far as like you said, I mean, we run the Oxford 250 laps, and you get 4 tire change, but 250 laps, so it's a pretty big deal. And even like Pensacola for the Derby and all that, it teaches you so much about tire management and car management and how important it really is. I can't tell you how many races I've won just because I was a little bit better on managing my stuff than the rest of the field. And it's like, I can't express how important that is. That was a big learning curve for me to learn, and finally came to a point where, I got a little bit more comfortable with doing that. And, I mean, at the end of the day, you're in a race, so it's hard to let someone go, You want to get out there, you want to pass them, you want to win, you want to do it, you want to do it from lap 1, but it's hard as a racer to sit there and watch someone drive off from you and not, knowing you have a car to catch them and you just don't. But it definitely helps.
Some may know you from the Northeast, the Granite State Pro Stock Series, the Pro All-Star Series, super late model type of car that runs up in New England. This is the first time that we've had you here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. So for those that may not know the name, Derek Griffith, kind of give us a bit of a background, including some of that Granite State Pro Stock racing that you do up in the Northeast.
Yeah, I mean, my whole entire life has kind of revolved to some sort of racing at some point or another. My dad raced when I was a little kid, and nothing crazy. And then when I was 12 years old, we bought a little enduro-style race car and raced at Hudson Speedway, and learned a lot. And we kind of moved up the next year to a mini stock, and then moved up the next year to like a late model style deal. And then I got lucky enough to get a hold of Louis Michelides, so he got a hold of us and said, "Hey, let's drive that. We got a hold pro stock or super late model that we got laying around. Let's try to get this thing going." And I ran a season with them. It was the Grand State Pro Stock Series. It took me a couple of years to kind of get going with them. We won some races like at Oktoberfest at Lee, and bounced around everywhere, and had some really strong runs. Just we didn't get that monkey off the back where you start winning races and doing really good. I was just doing okay. And then we got we got 4 wins in 2015 with Granite State Pro Stock Series. At Claremont, at White Mountain, Star, and Hudson. So that was a really good year for us. 16, we took the move to Pass, started bouncing around there. 2018, we were the Pass national TV. So we ran a national deal all the way south as far as Dillon Motor Speedway to as north as Spud Speedway in Caribou, Maine. So pretty cool deal to be running all over the East Coast. And now we've kind of, been doing a little bit of traveling and trying to get my feet wet in tracks I'm not real comfortable with. And, we finally got a win here at New Smyrna last year at the Orange Blossom 100. And we've had a pretty good showing so far this week. And I'm hoping to finally get a win here. I've been bridesmaid 3 times now. So I'm ready. I'm ready for one for sure, I hope.
And now I have to ask you, is Caribou, Maine the racetrack that you told me has a potato field in the middle?
Yep, the name of the racetrack is Spud Speedway, and it's so I'm in New Hampshire. Maine is obviously the state next to me, and it is 7.5 hours one way to go to Caribou, Maine. It's the most northeast part of the country that you can go, so it's all potato fields all around. It's a really, really funny deal.
Yeah, boy, you're talking to a girl that grew up in Idaho, potato country, where we were doing 8.5, 9 hours one direction to a racetrack too. So I feel you. But Derek, we'll let you get back to it. I know that you're getting ready to climb behind the wheel of your Super again. We hope you get that, one position that you've been looking for all week and get that win. But again, congratulations on a great run. We really hope something pans out for you. We'd love to see you back behind the wheel of an ARCA car.
Awesome. Hey, I really appreciate it. Thanks for being, calling me and allowing me to be on and everything. And hopefully we can make a deal work for that ARCA deal. Yeah,
we'd love to see it. Awesome. Well, best of luck, and we will definitely talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
That was Derek Griffith, your second place runner-up in the ARCA East race on Monday. But when we return here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, we've got your Whelen Engineering track spotlight of the week, as well as recapping all of the action from New Smyrna Speedway.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Both our guests that we've had on today were at New Smyrna Speedway all week long racing, and there have been a lot of other drivers racing there. But we talked about it. We introduced it to you last week. Whelen Engineering back on board with us for the 2020 season, and they are providing the opportunity to spotlight one of NASCAR's home tracks each and every week. And we found it, what better way than to spotlight New Smyrna Speedway, where so much history continues to be made. And Kyle, you are there. I've been there. It's an amazing facility, and what a great place to go racing for 7 nights. 8 nights. 9 nights.
9 nights, 10 nights, kind of a good week to have New Smyrna Speedway as our Whelen track of the week. It opened here in 1967 as a dirt track, paved 6 months later to host the World Series of Stock Car Racing in 1968. That's how long this event has been happening. It hosts the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series from March all the way to mid-November. But really, it doesn't shut down if you factor in some of the big off-season races like the Red Eye 100, the Orange Blossom 100, and this, the World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing, also the Clyde Hart Memorial 100. It was the opening event for the ARCA East Series, the first ever ARCA East event here under the ARCA banner. Guys like Jeff Bodine, Ryan Newman have won the World Series of Asphalt Championships. They've also gone on to win the Daytona 500. And a really cool feature in the infield here at New Smyrna Speedway, a smaller track known as Little New Smyrna Speedway, which hosts quarter midgets here on Friday night, grooming the youngsters to prepare them for NASCAR Whelen All-American Series competition in the future. Overall, a great place, a ton of divisions here this week, and always a great opportunity to come here to New Smyrna Speedway and be a part of the action.
And it's just a quick jaunt down the street from Daytona International Speedway. So if you ever get down there to watch anything on the high banks, be sure to get down there and check out New Smyrna and support your local short trackers. But speaking of that, we've talked about all the action. We've talked to two of the drivers there. Kyle, there's a lot of other drivers that have seen victory lane in pro late models, in super late models, modifieds. We've seen some new winners like Sammy Smith in the KBM car, the newest driver to the Kyle Busch Motorsports stable in the super late model, and Gio Scelzi, a name we saw in the ARCA East, who has minimal asphalt experience, got a win, but I believe it was by default.
Yeah, that was the Sunday night pro late model feature event we had. Much like the Busch Clash in Daytona, 18 cars started, 3 finished, and the top 2 had contact in turn 3 on the last lap. Connor Mausak got disqualified. David Weaver finished in the second spot after getting turned. Gio Scelzi ended up picking the win in the pro late model race. On Saturday night, it was Jeff Nolan picking up the race win. On Friday night, Nicholas Noggle picked up the race win over Connor Mosak to take the checkered flag there in the pro late models. Super late models, they've been busy as well. In fact, those are the Florida modifieds behind me. Brad May, the track champion here, picked up the race win on Sunday night. Jesse Love, who was also in the ARCA East race, won on Saturday night. And you mentioned Sammy Smith a moment ago, picking up the race win for Kyle Busch Motorsports on the opening night of competition on Friday. And a great field of tour-type modifieds here at New Smyrna Speedway. Over 30 cars checked into the property on Monday night. Anthony Nocella held off Matt Hirschman in a thrilling last 15 laps of a race that only saw one caution flag on Monday night. 50 laps, and Anthony Nocella led them all, but it wasn't easy. Hirschman was there, Patrick Emmerling, some guy named Ryan Priest, and Craig Lutz rounded out the top 5. So stellar fields, little rocky though for the pro late models and even the super late models on that opening Friday night.
And as we record this, it is a Tuesday afternoon, so still a handful of nights of racing at New Smyrna Speedway, so be sure to get out there, check those out. Lots of names racing now that you will recognize a couple years down the road as they continue to make their way up the ranks. And speaking of which, Kyle, you have a weekend full of racing yourself, but not at New Smyrna Speedway. You'll be hanging out at the big track.
Yeah, we'll be at the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. You mentioned we're recording this on Tuesday because on Wednesday, when this show normally airs, we'll be in the middle of Media Day, where we'll be talking to all the starters and a lot of a couple of other drivers trying to make the starting lineup for the Daytona 500 on Sunday. Qualifying races on Thursday night. We have the trucks, the Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series on Friday night, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, and the Daytona 500 on Sunday afternoon. So a busy week here on the Motor Racing Network. So check us out, mrn.com and Motor Racing Network stations across the country. And if you want to watch the racing from New Smyrna, don't forget about the NBC online gold package that you can subscribe to and see most of the ARCA races east and west this year, along with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour and all the action from World Series here at New Smyrna for the rest of the week.
Well, lots of racing still to happen. I know I'll be watching it on Track Pass on my phone as well. Kyle, have fun down in Daytona on the high banks. I'll be listening online to MRN, and hard to say, or crazy to say that just in a couple days, we'll be recording another episode of NASCAR Coast to Coast with a lot to talk about from New Smyrna Speedway. So that being said, we look forward to doing it again next week. Kyle, have fun in Daytona. I'm Hannah Newhouse. He's Kyle Rickey for producers Alexa Henry and Brian Yesowitz. We will see you guys next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast on the Motor Racing Network.
NASCAR Coast to Coast has been brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast can be found on MRN.com, Facebook, YouTube, or your favorite podcast provider. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.